Welcome to the Sisterhood of Sweat. I am with Caroline Topperman today. Caroline is a blogger and a writer. She's a famous Canadian blogger, by the way, and she has worked in fashion, fitness, and beauty industries. From being a professional dancer, which is something I never could attest to, you guys. I'm an athlete through and through. An indoor rock climbing instructor to owning a Pilates studio, which was frequented by professional athletes and Hollywood celebrities. She has done it all. Caroline's first book, FitWise, Straight Talk on Being Fit and Healthy, combines her unique voice and experience. Find more of her work on her blog, styleontheside.com. Now, I got to clarify my comment before I introduce her. When dancers are athletes, what I mean by that is I can dance, but I'm not a dancer. I'm like a bull in a china shop. So I'm more like, I could probably do hip hop, but ballet or some kind of classical dance would be out for me. I want to welcome Caroline to the show.
Hi, it's great to be here.
So dance, how did you get started into dance? And tell me, what type of dance you did and how long you did it for.
So I've been dancing pretty much my entire life. I started the typical, my mom probably wanted to get rid of me on a Saturday morning, so she sent me to ballet class. And so I did that, and I did the regular, few nights a week, and I took some, I did some exams, and I started to do that, and then I got more into jazz. I started taking more jazz lessons and more modern, and just expanding my whole repertoire of dance. And I quit for a while, actually. When I was in my teens, I stopped dancing for a little bit. And then I came back to it again because I missed it so much. And I was like, no, I'm going to do this. I love this more than anything. And so I started studying ballet pretty seriously. And ballet is sort of, it's the foundation of almost any of the more classical. But I performed in modern dancing more than ballet. I never had the typical ballerina body. And so that's how I got started in all of that. That was sort of, I just realized I loved it. I love that moving to music. I love the control that my body was able to get with dance, because there were so many things I had to think about at the same time.
Does it, I know I like to ride horses and I love to run because it kind of gives me that freedom feeling and just that element of being in alignment and one with my body. Is that how you feel?
That's exactly it. It's the same kind of idea. It's the same. So I don't ride horses, but I had a couple of clients who were equestrians. And so I understood that it was that how you have to be in unison with the animal that you're on. And it's that same idea. You have to be, your mind and your body have to be working at the same time. And you have to constantly be thinking. It's actually a kind of, it's a really intelligent sport, I guess, in that way, because you have to be thinking about the music. If you're in a group or with a partner, you have to be thinking about them as well as yourself, and everything you're doing and every muscle in your body has to be working properly at the same time.
I know I love to run because it's like a release for me too. And I like to move. It's just, to me, running though, because it's just relaxing. And I think it's just because you're letting all that stress go. And dance, you have to be a little bit more on top of it and mindful. When I'm running, I can let my mind kind of wander.
Yeah, exactly. So it's the same kind of thing. And I actually love dancing as well. I love dancing quite a bit, in that it's sorry, running as well. Sorry. I was a
Oh,
little distracted there. I love running in that for that same thing. And I actually listen to music so where I was going with this is I listen
I
to
listen to
music
music when I run, yeah,
and
or a
I want,
podcast.
right. And I start to like, if I'm listening to music, I'll start to run to the music, I find.
Yeah,
So
you do.
I'll slow down, speed up, and then my brain just goes with that music. And I think it's that same idea, that same kind of thing where I can completely.
Yeah, it's crazy. I coach running, and so if somebody's running and they want to increase their pace, they could use a metronome and set it to a faster pace because you'll automatically run to it, the beat, which will increase your pace overall. Well, there's other methods too, but you could just get some music and set it at a certain beat per minute, like if you get some of those music services. So it's pretty
Exactly.
interesting. I love that you had your own Pilates studio.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear a little bit about that, how you started it, and why, and why do you think we should all do Pilates?
I love Pilates and I'm super passionate about it. And I don't know how badly you want to get me started on that topic. Um, but
I love
basically,
passionate topics. That's the best.
basically what happened is, so I was dancing. That was my life. That's what I was doing. And then he's my husband now, fiance at the time. We moved to Vancouver and he went to a really crazy busy job. And I suddenly found myself with nothing. And I had no idea what to do. I was like, okay, well, like I don't want to go work in a store or something like that. I want to move forward. And I did actually dance in Vancouver a little bit too, but I don't know if I lost my passion a little bit about that point, but I couldn't just find my groove very well in the city.
Yeah.
So basically
Sometimes just the moving is a big adjustment.
it was a huge, because it was from Toronto to Vancouver, which is across the entire, it's like New York to California, right? It's the same distance. So it was a really big move. And he basically disappeared on me because his work was so demanding. And so there was a gym across the street from me where, I'm not kidding, I could see them, I could see into the gym from my balcony. So I finally walked over there and I convinced them to give me a job. And I started chatting with one of the guys at the gym, and he knew that I had been doing Pilates for so long. So I said, why don't I just start teaching Pilates? And I had my personal training certification at that point, so I could teach it. And I started teaching. And it just started evolving from there. And then I finally went and I took all these other I started doing all the certification for Pilates. And by this point, I had been taking Pilates myself for about 6 or 7 years in Toronto. And I got into it because of a really nasty hamstring tear. I was performing on stage and I went into the splits and I had to rotate from like a side split into a front split. And I just heard the most awful sound ever. And I barely got up and I finished the piece. And because of how dance is, I walked out and performed on point about 15 minutes later. I had like tears streaming down my face, but I did it. And I wound up not being able to sit properly on my right side for about 3 years. And so somebody later on at Toronto Dance Theatre recommended that I should start Pilates and start doing all of that. So for me, it was rehab completely.
Oh my gosh, that goes along with what I'm getting ready to do. I mean, that's just so perfect that I'm interviewing you today because as we spoke, I have had to have my hamstring reattached with a very similar injury. I was dehydrated because I took water, maybe a little too much water off. I did 2 shows back to back and I was prime and ready for it. But, my husband was videoing and I overperformed. It was my 4th round. It was kind of late at night and jumped in the splits and pop, down I went. Just that huge pop from bottom to top. It was complete like hamstring avulsion. So I've been looking into this 949 Pilates where she uses the suspension trainer for all of her Pilates because I keep thinking this is a ticket for people like me or other people out there that maybe don't want to run and jump at the speed of light and jump into the splits and do like crazy boot camp, right? I'm like, because she's like looks amazing. She's in the best shape ever with Pilates with the suspension trainer.
Yeah, and
So
I think that's fantastic because so she's totally into a modern, she's doing her variation, and I'm
yeah,
all for that. I love that. Anything that works, and
yeah,
the way I always see it with Pilates, because you get a lot of people that are very anal about Pilates and about if it's the classical or the more contemporary Pilates. I come from a more contemporary background, so for me, I read this somewhere, and I thought this girl, she was genius the way she said it. She's like, if you have to look at the instructor, and if the instructor wants you to be great, like if the instructor cares about you more than whatever style they're teaching, then it's awesome. And so so I'm all for that. I think that's amazing. And
so yeah, so the Pilates, I guess how I was looking at it, because I'm getting ready to open a new gym, I was looking at it like this is like so like in the demographics that I have, which are women 35 to 60 that, maybe need some healing, or they need to be able to have a workout, which is uh, still going to give them the benefits without maybe the injuries, right?
yeah, absolutely. And here's the crazy thing, like, so the studio that I ran, we had kids as young as 13 or 14 years old who were in there working just because they love the workout themselves. Like, the equipment's really cool. If you can get the equipment,
The
like,
Pilates equipment. Yeah,
yeah,
I always taught mat Pilates. I've never taught on the actual equipment, but I can see myself diving into that further. I'm definitely going to be doing the suspension training Pilates, and then looking into more, I think, of some things like a reformer, or I like the reformer with the trampoline thing.
former is yeah, that's awesome fun. And when I needed to shut clients up because they were annoying me, I'd be like, we're doing jump board today. Maybe I don't know if I should admit that.
Oh,
The other one, yeah, the other one that's awesome though is the Pilates chair. I love that because you can do these crazy workouts, and especially for athletes. But the other part of the Pilates, other facet, I guess, of Pilates that I would say is that, yeah, if you're a lot of people get in because they're coming off an injury, but I think
right, it's healing, right? It's rehabbing. It's gonna, I mean, like I do yoga like crazy, but I think the Pilates is gonna be my secret for my comeback.
it's a little bit because it's a little bit. I love yoga. I like, please, no one write in and yell at me because I do love yoga. Yoga's great. But Pilates, especially if you have equipment, and whether suspension or reformers or Cadillacs or chairs or ladder barrels, the thing about Pilates is that you can really narrow down and zero in on your injury and on rebalancing your body, because especially all the styles are a little bit different, but what we're looking at always is getting the smaller muscle groups working. And what we really want is we want to balance the body. And I can basically walk into a room, and people love this. This is like my party trick. I'll walk into a room and I'll be like, oh, yeah, so I bet you have back pain, right? And because I can tell, because I can look at somebody's body and I can see that their their shoulders are rounded forward, or that one side is marginally higher than the other. If I'm looking at, their shoulders or their hips, even I can see if one hip is twisted forward. And they're always so shocked that I can basically say exactly where they have pain. And so that's
Oh yeah, because they think that well, first of all, they're used to hiding it somewhat and masking it, and they think that no one can tell because most people wouldn't be able to, but to the trained eye, you can see the imbalances because that's what you've been looking for when you train them on Pilates.
exactly, exactly. So I love doing that because it completely freaks people out. But that's how I used to get clients when I was teaching regularly, is I could just do that. And then, like, that's a ready-made client for me. So it
Wow.
was great.
Now,
But
you said you teach more of a contemporary. Is there a certain style that you do?
So the style that I was sort of born and raised in, I'd say, is stop Pilates, which is
Okay.
actually, it's a
Yeah, I
Canadian
took
one.
from the actual.
Oh,
I,
cool. Yeah,
I
yeah.
want to say it's her name, Mariah Stott or Mora,
My, Myra.
Myra.
Yeah.
I knew I was somewhere in between.
No, you got
I
it. You
took
got
from
it.
her because I coordinated group fitness for over 25 years, so I took everything.
Right. Yeah. So she was awesome. I don't know if I met her a bunch of times because she was always at the studio where I'd go. And actually, it was funny because my instructor, I took classes from Beth a lot though. Beth was like her right-hand man at the time. And when I used to take classes, it was hilarious because Karen Kane, who was, now she's the artistic director of the National Ballet of Canada, when she was still the like prima ballerina, we would take class at the same time, and she had Myra, of course. So it would be really hilarious. We'd both be doing things at the same time, and I'd always be looking over at her, completely jealous. But
Oh, I can totally relate to that.
yes.
Wow, that is so cool. Well,
Mhm.
I mean, like you guys, you got to check out Pilates.
Absolutely.
Pilates, you got to
And
check
even
it
if
out.
you're an athlete, because it'll only make you stronger. So if I can, I have this really funny story. My studio, when I had it, was probably about 40 or even 50% men. And these men would come in and they'd be like, "Oh, is this what my wife does?" And I'd be like, all right, let me show you what your wife does." And these were like these guys played, a couple of them played in the NHL, but they were all like really high level hockey players. That was the passion in Vancouver. And this one guy gets on the chair, the piece of equipment, and we're going to do tricep dips, just pretty standard, except for you're using your own body weight. You don't have your feet on the ground for these. And he does like 15 of them, and he's like, "That's easy," and just really kind of snarky. And I'm like, all right, well, why don't we try them with good form now? And we're actually going to engage our lats a little bit. We're going to really think of engaging our abdominals a little bit while we do this too. And let's try these tricep dips now. And he did one. So that's the other. So even if you have no injuries, even if you have no real physical problems, it just makes you so much stronger anyway.
Wow, we could swap snarky stories,
We
but
probably could.
I want to move on because I want to talk a little bit about your book, Fitwise, which I was diving into, and people getting motivated. I know, like, it's kind of an excuse to say I'm not motivated. And so, how do we overcome workout excuses, and why are they really not valid 99% of the time? Why are our workout excuses not valid, and how do we overcome them?
I don't know if people are going to love my answer.
Well, that's what you're here for. They're supposed to love me. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I think it's because people, I find that it's like we have this weird all or nothing mentality all the time. And people are like, "Oh, okay, I have to go to the gym today, and I have to spend like 30 hours there, and I have to do all these things, and then tomorrow I'm not going to be walking," and they talk themselves out of it. And I think that is so ridiculous. And then they'll be like, "Oh, I'm just too tired and I can't do this. I can't do this." And I think it's because they haven't found what they like to do. They haven't found what they enjoy. And so they're forcing themselves to do something that they're hating every minute of. And of course, you're not going to go. And of course, you're not going to motivate yourself when you hate what you're doing. Because I don't like doing things I don't like to do either. And it's about finding something that you love. And of course, when I was taking ballet, or I know before a show, you're probably spending a lot of time at the gym. And I would take up to 3 dance classes a day, plus any rehearsals or anything like that. So I was working out for probably about 6 to 8 hours in a day sometimes, but I love that. So it was not a problem. It wasn't work. And I think it's partially that word that we use in there, that it's a workout, and it should just be like a fun activity that we do. So those excuses of I'm too tired, I'm sorry, there may be days where you are too tired, and okay, fine. So you give yourself that day, but really, you're too tired to even just go take a 20-minute walk after dinner. You can't, like, absolutely cannot. You're dragging your feet so much that you can't go out. And let's not forget, a good walk, that's great, right? That's not a bad thing. So it's maybe not, you're not lifting weights and maybe you're not progressing, but it's still a minimum of keeping your heart healthy, which is super important. So that's why those excuses, to me, those are excuses. Those aren't reasons. A reason is, oh, I tore my hamstring and I can't walk. Okay, fine. You know what? You get a couple of days off if that happens. But for everybody else who's just using these, or I'm too tired, I can't fit it into my day, then you split it up. So in the book, what I've done is I've put together these like 15, 20-minute workouts. You don't even have to leave your house. You don't even have to put on a pair of sweats to do them. And I know we're probably, most of us, wearing sweats anyway, most of the day. So that's not even a good excuse. But you can do something, you can break it up, and you can do 3 10-minute sections. And I'll use my dad as the perfect example. The man is 81 years old. He has given himself type 2 diabetes from overeating and all the bad stuff. My dad would be the perfect model for it. And about a year and a half ago, I'm like, Dad, enough is enough. You're on so many medications. I am not flying back to see you every time. You need to go on another medication. I'm just not going to do that. And I found him a trainer, and I think she's about 50 maybe, and she's beautiful. So of course my dad just likes to go to the gym because she's there. But she's tough. Like, she is mean to him and he loves it. And he goes, and now he's, like I said, he's 81 years old. He's on all these medications. The man goes 3 times a week, and he only goes for half an hour at a time. She's helped him rework his entire diet. He has lost so much weight that they're taking him off of medications now. And he's probably in better health than he's been in the last like 40 years.
And really, it's just about moving it, and just when you don't feel like it, if you just get yourself moving pretty, and get yourself warmed up and get your juices flowing, all of a sudden what's going to happen, you're going to feel like it, you're going to be into it, and then you're going to have a hard time stopping. And like her dad getting in that kind of shape, that doesn't happen from just doing nothing. You have to do something, even if it's just to take a walk, like she said. But yeah, losing the excuses, there's so many. What's the worst excuse you've ever heard?
Oh no. I don't know. I think for me, the one that grates on my nerves the most is like, oh, I just don't like the gym. Like, okay,
I don't like to work out.
Yeah, like, so who said you have to go to the gym? That's like, I think that's my biggest one, is like, oh, I don't like, I've heard people be like, oh, I don't like the smell at the gym. Like, what does that even mean? Get over it. Get over yourself. Like, 5 minutes in, you're not going to smell the sweat.
They're associating it with something with that.
Yeah, they must be. Or the whole thing of like, I don't know how to use the equipment too. That
you know what? I got a new one. Just bring Febreze with you.
I love it.
Just spray it around.
That's awesome. But it's like 5 minutes in, or they're like, I get bored at the gym, but it's always associated with them not liking what they want to do. And I think that's the biggest one, is that they just don't like what they're doing. So they get this mentality.
They don't understand, right? They don't understand. Like, if you really like, let's step into the next part of like, how do we feel confident at the gym when we feel like we're new, we don't know what we're doing, maybe we feel out of shape, and we feel like everybody is staring at us, and maybe they are. Like, we feel it though, and probably they're not. But how do we overcome that? Because
So
that's a huge thing to
yes,
overcome.
that is absolutely. And I used to get that even in the Pilates studio. People would come in and they just want a private and they'd want it at a time when no one was around. And I do get that, because I do that to myself too. When I came back to ballet, it took me 3 months of talking to myself and walking by the ballet school every day to finally go in the studio again, because I knew I wasn't in shape and I hated every minute of it. So I would say, if it's like that, and I'll use the gym as an example because it's the perfect, it's the most intimidating, I think, of all the places, really. So I would say there's a couple of things to do. First of all, just go. Just go. Don't even work out. Honestly, because you're afraid of the unknown. So plan on going and not working out, and let one of those eager people at the front desk who's probably overly happy, and I can say that because I was one of those people at one point, let them give you a tour of the gym in your clothing. So you're not in workout clothing, you're not freaking out, no one is looking at you.
Because I used to always put somebody through a workout whenever they came in.
Right, but
so they
if
realized why they needed it.
But that's the next one. The first time you can go, just go and see it. That's the first thing. The second thing I usually tell people is, honestly, you know who they're not looking at you. They're looking at like the guy in the back who's throwing weights around and grunting, because there's always someone like that at every gym who's making a spectacle of themselves because they want to. And that's who people are looking at. Go with a friend, right? If you're together, it just makes all of that a little bit less intimidating. And understand that all the equipment actually has really clear instructions of how to use it. It tells you which muscles it's using. Yeah, it's all about that. And I mean, worst case scenario, I think most gyms also offer a package where you can have a trainer go through the whole thing with you and give you that workout. So I
highly recommend that.
Absolutely.
Because it's going to give you some confidence in things and some instruction so you don't hurt yourself, but also just you're going to gain knowledge on how to use everything so that you can feel a little more comfortable and a lot more confident.
Yeah, it's what you said. It comes down to knowledge and just having that feeling. And also, a lot of the time you can get them to write out a workout for you. So when you walk in, you already know what you're going to do when you walk in.
Why does our own personal style, like, why does it matter if I wear like cool workout clothes to the gym?
So I don't always. So if anybody sees me working out, you feel free to call me out on this. But what it does, I think what does matter is because essentially if you feel good, you'll go. And if you're
if you just feel like a big blob or like a big like there's no shapeless,
well, then you're gonna go sit on your couch.
Yeah, it doesn't make you feel better. Like if you wear something that makes you feel good, then you feel better when you're there working out, right?
All of this, when we break it down and take away everything, is really just about making people feel good. Right? That's really what that was always my goal. I wanted people to walk out of my studio feeling good about themselves. And it makes a huge difference. And then also, if we're going to get into a little bit more technical terms, performance wear is there for a reason. There's a reason we're not all wearing cotton shorts and like no support running shoes. So for me, when I go right now, I can't really run outside very well because my hip has decided it's going to stop working. So I'm on a treadmill, but it still matters what shoes I'm wearing because I still need them to absorb some of that impact to help me out and help my foot placement. So I spend that money on my running shoes. But if you're doing anything like yoga, you're not going to walk into a yoga class in denim. You'll die. You'll die of like, I don't know, you'll never be able to do anything because there's no give.
Well,
and you'll
probably get your pants. That's the worst fate ever, right?
And then if you get really warm, you're just going to sweat to death. So why are there yoga pants? Because they allow us to move and they keep us safe. And also, if you're even on a treadmill,
I can't resist, but like Jack Black, I don't remember what movie it was, his stretchy yoga pants that he had on. There's a reason for the stretchy yoga pants.
Yeah.
I mean, really.
But but on top of that too, and it's also for safety, right? So if we're on equipment, you don't want your shirt getting caught in the equipment, because that could be
Oh, that can be a real hazard. This little harness, you guys can't see it. Well, you could, because actually I'm kind of unattached right now because I can't stand it. Those little harness that I've been harnessed at 90 degrees with, which I'm allowed to be at 0 now. I don't want anybody to freak out, but this thing is a hazard. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm allowed to do things and I'm allowed to do upper body now, but like I could kill myself on this thing. It gets hooked up on stuff and I'm just like, you know.
Well, exactly.
Just like the
right?
t-shirt or the wrong clothing.
Yeah, or like a pair of pants that suddenly gets stuck in something and you're flying off a piece of equipment. That's terrible. I knew somebody that happened to on a treadmill, and she went flying. She came to my studio the next day and her face, she looked like she was punched in the face. And it's because she went flying off a treadmill. So, we're laughing, but I don't know.
No, really, I have actually seen people fly off the treadmill, so be careful and get the right instructions.
Right, and then hence why you want that trainer the first few times.
That's why you want the trainer, because it is a reality. If you're not, you don't know how to work a treadmill, that could happen.
But even I've been on a treadmill before.
Equipment is not moving when you get on.
Yes, absolutely. Like safety first. Always safety first, and get to know it. Go slow. You don't need to pile on all the weight if you're doing weights. You don't need to set the treadmill or stair climber.
Your muscle, not your ego, right?
Oh, yeah, that's
the muscle you have versus the muscle you used to have or you wish you had.
That's it.
The muscle you have right now.
That should be the motto for today.
Oh my gosh. So why is it so important for us to develop our own personal style? Because I know you are like a style blogger. And so, I mean, I want to kind of dive into that a little bit because I think it's interesting. Why does style even matter?
It matters because it is a representation of who we are. It does give us confidence. It does, as much as I hate it. Well, as much as I hate it, I mean, first impressions really matter. And I try to look beyond that too, but everybody makes that split-second decision. So all of that really does matter. It does matter how you present, and it matters how you present yourself to the world. How do you want the world to know you and who you are? And even if you're shy or outgoing, it doesn't really matter. You want people, you need to be noticed in this world. You can't go through life without being noticed.
You're going to be noticed either way.
Exactly.
You're going to be noticed, even though you think you're invisible, because I know a lot of people like to hide in their clothing and their bodies because they don't want people to be, they don't want attention drawn to themselves. And so I would just say to you that no matter whether you put on a bright pink top or you wear khakis every day or gray, you're going to be noticed.
Exactly.
So it's just deciding how, what do I want people to notice about me then? Because they're going to notice me regardless.
Exactly. So it's just the statement that you want to put out to the world. And it doesn't have to be flashy. It doesn't have to be obnoxious.
It doesn't have to be like hot pink, but I do idolize hot pink.
I like hot pink too.
And also blue, bright blue, which my wall back there. It's time for a we're going to be painting that. So
I like the color. I like that shade.
Wow. So style makes you feel better. It also gives people a glimpse into who you are. Or I would even venture the whole dress for success, dress for who you like what you want to be or
where you want to be.
Where you want to be, right?
Yeah.
Before you get there.
Absolutely. That's a big part of it. And it goes through with the whole, it's like those visualization exercises. It works along with that. It's in that inspiration as well, because if I'm always wearing, and you never know who you're going to meet on the street. You never know who you're going to just bump into or see. So on a professional level, if you're going out and you might bump into somebody from work, again, how do you want them to see you? And it can be more casual. That's fine. but you have to sort of watch, you know, you don't necessarily either want to go out in your dirtiest, ugliest, most horrible outfit either. So it is a big part of that. And when
it
I
doesn't
was,
have to be expensive, right? You
oh
can find
no, no,
plenty
no,
of great
no.
styles for very inexpensive.
Absolutely. And the other thing too, the big trick is so many of those big expensive department stores that have all the high-end fashion, they all have like the sale racks. They
Oh,
all
I just bought the cutest stuff, you guys. 50% off. I won't say, it'll be like an ad. So I started to say where. Oh my gosh, but it's only today, so I know this podcast won't be out, but for 50% off of sale price from a well-known brand that just changed their name, I literally I bought the cutest clothing for like a fraction of what it originally cost. In fact, I think the dress that I bought, which is going to be for Christmas, and it's silver off shoulder and it has the big flare sleeves and it's kind of snug and sparkly. Although I wanted red, they were out, but for $24, I mean, my God, you guys, it was $170 originally.
That's amazing. And you can accessorize with red, and you can accessorize with and hot pink if you want.
Ooh, there you go. Maybe hot
suddenly
pink.
that silver has become like 3 different outfits, right?
Yeah.
And that's it, right? So, and the only thing I would say though to people, if you're going to be looking for things like that, is look for quality, because unless you really know that this is something specific that you're only going to wear the one time, I would look for something that you can wear for a couple of years even, just so you really get that value out of it. And then even if it is a little bit more, it'll just be worth it in the end.
Yeah, yeah. But I did realize what you said about the sale, because I just bought a top like a day or two before that, and now it's 50% off, and I was like,
well, my mom was like the genius at this, because she'd find these, you can look them up. They're usually in the paper. I'm sure now we can just Google them, but you can look up like designer sample sales, and where they have everything at huge discounts. I can't, but
oh my God. She's got her toy. She's like,
she's just having too much fun, or she agrees with what we're saying.
Oh my gosh. It usually means she took a poo, so I'm kind of worried.
Where that was, I hear you. But at least she's happy now.
We're still in potty training stage. Oh my gosh. Oh my
she's
gosh.
relieved. It's all good.
Wow. This is so fun today. Now, the biggest thing I notice is people get derailed after they start. How do we keep from getting off, like we start with all these big ambitions, we're going to conquer the world, we're going to look like, Beyonce, how do we stop from, overshooting the mark and then just falling off?
Yeah, because that obviously does happen. You get so excited, and then the novelty wears off, or the changes don't happen fast enough. So, I mean, I think it's just to keep checking back with yourself all the time. So it might be that because we know that you need to constantly be challenging your body. So if you're doing the same workout over and over, your body's going to get used to it. So you probably will stop seeing results. And it's about trying new things. And that would be when I'd say, if you're not working out with a trainer, that's when you want to get a trainer, so they can help you change up that workout, and they can help you challenge your body in a different way, or try a new activity that'll use your muscles differently. And then the other part of that, what I would say too, is at that point, if you're not seeing those results and you are starting to lose that enthusiasm a little bit, that would be a great time to see what you're eating. Because often what happens is we're working out, so we're eating a little bit more, or changing our diet a little bit, which is great. And we need to constantly be doing that. But often what happens too is sometimes I'll go for a run and I'm like ravenous because I've been running for an hour and I'm just dying. And then I realize, yeah, I didn't burn that many calories. And I really don't need to sit down and have, I don't know, a huge meal after that. And stuff.
All right, you're starting to you're going to the next phase a little early. debunking the myths of what? Of eating healthy food I can have as much as I want, right?
Yeah, right, exactly. Because healthy food has no calories. That avocado, which is really good for you, right? Because that doesn't have a whole lot of calories that you're piling on. So it's really just to watch that. I used to get that all the time with clients too. I had one client, I remember she was all, oh, she's like, well, I eat a whole avocado a day. And I'm thinking, okay, that's fine, maybe, but what else are you eating during the day? So I think that's what we start to do. We start to trick ourselves into that as well. And we start to overeat, even the good things.
Okay, so why can I'm going to go through some of the myths. Why is it a myth that having one cheat day a week, a whole day in which to eat whatever I want, why does that not help me stay on plan? People think it helps them stay on plan, but why is that not such a good idea?
Yeah, I know. I'll probably have trainers like sharpshooting me for this. I hate that mentality because people overdo it.
You got to be your own woman.
I'm confident in what I'm saying, but because people overdo it. I see it all the time. They do it and they think they can eat whatever they want and as much as they want, and you can derail yourself completely in that one day. It's a harsh truth.
I so agree with you. I'm like, make it like one cheat item.
Yes, thank you.
Or like a dessert that you wanted, something. But like also even there, if you go to the Cheesecake Factory, wait, what? They put calories on the menu now.
Yes.
You could at least see how much damage is it gonna do me if I have this.
Yes.
Right?
And it's not like, and my theory too is like, so, or have half.
I mean, I love that they put the calories on the menu because you can see like how much everything, like if I have this red velvet cheesecake, how many calories am I expending? Do I need to, do I need a little extra something this week? Do I need to make sure I'm buckling down on my fitness?
And the other part I would say to that is make sure it's worth it.
Make sure it's worth it. Like, no crappy, let's not have a crappy dessert. Let's also make sure it's good.
Make sure you enjoy it. Like if you're gonna go for it, go for it. Absolutely go for it. But really like what you're eating. Like I just don't understand that mindless, oh, I'm just gonna eat like 5 plates of fries because I can. Well, did you like them? That's my
I just like I don't see the trade-off like, most of the time. Like I always think about how am I going to feel afterwards?
Yep.
How is this going to make me feel? And down the road, it's all going to add up. So I usually, if I'm going to have something, it's not every week. I am not like a cheater every week. Like if I'm going to eat something, it's got to be good, like you said. And it's, maybe, I don't know, on special occasions, or like maybe once every I don't know, I'm so bad, I don't cheat.
And that's the other part. I don't like the fact that we're calling it
like what I'm eating. I like what I'm eating. I like eating healthy.
Yes, but it shouldn't even be a cheat.
Yeah.
Because the minute we start to deprive ourselves, the minute we're like, oh, that's off the books, I can't eat that, that's cheating. What, like the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go and do exactly what you just said I shouldn't do.
Because why? We think it's all or nothing. And if you think it's all or nothing, pretty soon it's nothing, right? It's a discipline I learned from just learning what I like, how to make everything I like healthy. I can make anything and make it at least be in the realm of like I feel good about eating it.
Absolutely. I noticed that too. I spent the last 4 years living in Europe, and I really noticed that there. And when I landed, I'd see a girl walking down the street eating an ice cream, and I'd be looking at her going, how can you be eating that in public? Because living in Vancouver, somebody would literally come up to you and be like, I can't believe you're eating that. But the portions were so much smaller that my husband and I had a huge adjustment because we suddenly had to figure out that we were eating way too much here. So suddenly the portions were just smaller because people eat less. And it was a tiny bit. That ice cream was probably about 3 bites. So is it so bad? Probably not. It wasn't like a a tub of ice cream.
Oh my goodness, you guys. I am running out of time. I hate this. I literally have to, I can't drive myself and I have to catch an Uber to the other side of town. I'm going to have Caroline back on because we didn't get to half of what I wanted to talk about.
I would love to come back on.
And it was so much fun. Once we got going, I was like, this is a good time. So tell everybody, where can they reach you on social media? Where can they get your book and stay in touch?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would love to stay in touch. And if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer and clarify anything I've said. Basically, I'm the easiest person to find on the internet because I am at Style on the Side everywhere. So all of my social media is Style on the Side. My blog is styleontheside.com. And even if you Google my name, you will find me because I am the only Caroline Topperman in the world with the spelling that I have.
Oh,
so yeah, I know.
The one and only.
I am. So it's a little, maybe I shouldn't say this, but
I love that.
I'm really easy to
find. You can't top that.
And my
that
book
should be like your slogan or something.
Yeah, I know. I don't know if I want it to be.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on the show today, and everybody make sure and give Caroline a good review. Check out her blog and just give her some love. Thank you so much. Thanks everybody for listening to the Sisterhood of Sweat.